Hi, this is a recap and expansion of how to use Moodle restrictions and some setup differences on a Moodle test or quiz module to differentiate for students in our classes. So I've already made a Chapter 8 test that I'm going to make a separate version of for my IEP and 504 students, and I'm going to show you how to do that. And then I'm going to show you a little bit more on how to use some different features in Moodle to make it so my IEP and 504 students also kind of have the number of options reduced for them as well. So let me get into that. So first of all, I'm going to take the Chapter 8 test and I'm going to add restrictions. So I should talk while I'm doing that. Let me go back. So I went into it and then I'm going to go to edit settings and I'm going to go down to the bottom to restrict access. And now I'm going to add restrictions. So I'm going to say add restriction and I'm going to say group. And I'm going to say the first group they can't be in is IEP. And then I'm going to add another one, and I'm going to add the group and say 504. So I'm going to say must not match any of IEP or 504. So this test that I'm looking at right now is going to be for my non-IEP and my non-504 students. So they must not be in IEP or 504. And I poked it in the eye, meaning if that's not the case, it's hidden from them. They don't even see this one. So I'm going to save and return to course. So I've got my Chapter 8 test made and I've restricted it to only non-IEP and non-504 students. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to right click there, or I'm going to click on edit and go to duplicate to make the copy that I'm going to edit for my IEP and 504 students. So that takes a second for it to make a copy of it. Once the copy is done, I'm going to go edit and edit settings. So the first thing, I've got some settings that I want to change. I'm going to delete that so it still looks like the other one. I'm going to hit expand all and kind of walk down through the settings here that I want to change. So I'm going to change a couple things on this one. Normal is deferred for feedback for a normal test, but I'm going to make this test adaptive for my IEP and 504 students. So I'm going to show you what that means, but the first thing I'm going to do on question behavior, I'm going to go to interactive with multiple tries, and I'll show you what that means. And I'm going to also check that they're going to get specific feedback during the actual test. I don't normally have that, but I'm going to turn on specific feedback with interactive with multiple tries. Then I'm going to continue down to the restrictions, and at restrictions, I'm going to change it. Instead of must not be any of these, I'm going to say must be any of these. And I'm going to poke it in the eye so that if you're not an IEP or 504 student, you don't see this one. If you are, you will. So now you must be in any of these groups. So I'm going to hit save and return to course. And now we've got these two tests here. We've got the Chapter 8 test for the non-IEP 504 and the Chapter 8 test for the IEP and 504 students. So now I'm going to make some further changes on this one. The first thing was, the first changes I just made are going to take effect with some of the other things that I'm going to do. So first I'm going to edit the quiz. The non-504 and IEP kids are going to get a 26 question test. I'm going to reduce the number by taking off questions that are maybe redundant, maybe excessive reading. I'm just going to shorten it for them. So if it's 26, I cut it by a third to a half, depending on how much time they have, to make sure my IEP and 504 students have enough time to complete it within the block, just like everybody else, so that I'm there to answer the questions for them. So I'm going to go through and pick some questions and just click the delete button here and remove them from this version of the test. I'm not actually deleting them from the database. I'm just deleting them from this particular one. So I'm going to go through and pick some more of those. So I've just cut it down to 19 questions that I took basically 7 questions off, or a third of the test off. roughly for my 504 and IEP students, and I might take it down to as little as a half depending on my time constraints that I've got. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. The second thing I'm going to do for my IEP and 504 students is actually record the questions so that they can listen to them. So if I click on one, if it's not recorded, it's really simple. All I'm going to do is make it so that if they're a struggling reader, they can push play and listen to the question. So I just went underneath the question. I'm going to hit the little mic button. I'm going to hit start recording, and I'm going to read the question. Analog video out devices hook up through the following. Hit stop recording, and I attach the recording, and now they'll be able to hit play and listen to it. I'm also going to go through and do that for the answers if the answers are long. These are one-word answers. I do not need to record one-word answers. In my opinion, maybe an IEP or intervention specialist would disagree. If I need to, I certainly can, but I don't do it in the questions on one-word answers, so I'm going to leave this one the way it is. So that's number one. Number two is many times we would like to reduce the number of options for IEP and 504 students. Right now, this has 4 options in here. I could delete this as a choice, but if I delete it as a choice, I'm not modifying this test. I'm modifying the question bank, which means that everywhere this question appears, we'll then only have 3 choices, which is not usually the intent. The intent was just to modify it for my 504 and IEP students. So the next thing is, how can I do that? I'm going to go to the bottom, and I'm going to go to the multiple tries section. And this is where that adaptive mode that we just, or the interactive mode that we just turned on will become effective. I can say if I want to penalize them for incorrect tries. Now, if I'm trying to reduce the attempts, I should make this 0. Because if I was saying that for my IEP and 504 students, I only want them to have 3 options, and the way I'm effectively doing that is by letting them have one free choice and giving them feedback, that I wouldn't penalize them for that free choice. But you can see I have a couple options here, or several options here on if I wanted to penalize for multiple tries, I could. I got to change this to 0. I've already typed in a hint here. The answer is not DVI. Is that my first hint? That's on there. And then they get the number of attempts equal to the number of hints plus 1. So I've got a hint. Here's hint 1. Here's hint 2. I can also, well, I've already done this once, so I can't change it. I can also click to clear the incorrect response, but I can't do that now because I've already input this once. So I've got a second hint. The answer is not DVI or HDMI. Those are digital outputs. It's my second hint. So this is going to allow my students, there's 4 options. It's going to allow them to take 2 freebies at this, effectively reducing it to really only 2 options. If I deleted this hint, it would only give them 1 free choice. So it'd give them 2 chances at that. Go ahead and reduce it to 1 hint. And I'm going to show you what that looks like. Okay, so here's the question I just did. I hit preview, by the way, to go to that one to see what it looks like. You can see now they get 2 tries at this. They can listen to the question, and then they can go and they can do a check. So they're going to say, okay, analog video houses hook up to the following. I'm going to hit display port and hit check. They're going to immediately get the feedback that that's a digital. So they know that's wrong because I'm looking for analog. And it also says the answer is not DVI. So I know it's not that one, and I know it's not that one. Now I'm down to only 2 choices. I hit try again. And then if I go to VGA and hit check, it says analog here. And now they're locked in. They've got no other options they can do on that particular question. And that's what those hints allow us to do. If I don't have on that the behavior is interactive with multiple tries, it won't make any difference. If it's still set deferred feedback like it is for my non-IEP, non-504, those changes I made make no difference whatsoever. And you can see feedback is grayed out. But if I go to interactive with multiple tries, all of a sudden that means something, that they get feedback. So that's the way that works. And that's how I can go and modify my test for my 504 and IEP students to have it read to them and to give them a modified question so that they get hints after their first attempt if they got it wrong. And when I go and preview the entire test, you can see if I've got a hint in there, nope, so they only got one try. If I got a hint in there, nope, they only get one try. And you can use that to fix it too. If I go through in here to preview, oh, there's only one, I want to give them more than one. So I'm going to edit that question. I'm going to go to the bottom and I'm going to go ahead and give them a multiple try. I'm going to change it to 0 and I'm going to give them a hint on the answer. So that eliminates really a number of the choices. I'm going to hit, I can't do that now. And I'm going to hit save changes. There we go. Okay, and now I have 2 tries on it. And if I go and pick the wrong one and I check my choice, it says the answer is incorrect. It is a Radeon card. Okay, so now I've cut it down to these 3. And then I've got 1 try remaining. I can hit try again, and then I can try one of the other ones and check and see if I got the right answer. I didn't. I was guessing. I didn't look it up. And I can go through my test that way and see if I want to add hints for any of these other ones. I can even make it so that they get a specific hint with a lesson in there. So I'm going to go to this one. This says I have 3 tries. I'm going to hit 4 gig of RAM, which is incorrect, and I'm going to hit check. On this one, it says, does the application matter? And I've even put a video in as the feedback, and it starts right at where I want them to watch and find the answer. So they could watch that and then go, oh, I remember them talking about that. I'm going to try again, and I'm going to say it totally depends on the game, and I'm going to hit check, and the answer is correct. Yay! So not only can you give them hints, you can give them hints with actual video for them to watch to relearn that part of the lesson. I'm going to show you how I did that. So I've got that recorded down here, and in the feedback down here, and the combined feedback, I've got whether the answer is correct, and if it's not correct, I've got to go into a YouTube video, and that's basically this YouTube video, and the T equals, that means start at that many seconds into the video, so they don't have to watch the whole video. You can have it go actually to exactly where you want them to watch and think about, and then re-answer the question. So I've got that multiple tries down here where I've got a hint. I could put that video down here in the hint too, so not everyone gets to see that. If I wanted to, I could make that the hint. I can make it a video. It doesn't have to just be text. I could have it be a link to something to read for them as the hint that, hey, here's the lesson, go back and review this. So you have a lot of options for students to be able to get more instruction in the test to help those 504 and IEP kids to help them review when they get to that. So that is how that works. Again, if I don't see that it has more than one attempt, that means there's no hint. If I check, I'm effectively doing nothing. It's just telling them whether they got it wrong, right or wrong during the test. If I go on, I've still answered that question. But if I check, it's going to tell me the answer is correct, incorrect, but I don't get to fix anything on there as well. So that is it for modifying a test for our 504 and IEP students, both changing the number of questions, adding voice recordings in for my students, and giving them hints to eliminate some of the possibilities to give them a little more modified test for those students. And that's it. Hopefully that helps you in your class.